Throughout human civilization, individuals who have committed misdeeds have frequently been subjected to a wide range of brutal treatments and sufferings as a means of punishment. Although specific punishment methods may have been milder than others, many have been known to be extremely severe and devastating. In the record of human civilization, 4 appalling sentences continue to create shock and disgust in modern times. These are the infamous death by 1,000 cuts, the ghastly Scaphism, the torturous Judas Cradle, and the bizarre Diogenes Pants. These punishments were implemented so effectively that they remained etched in history as instruments of terror, deterring crimes and offenses for generations. The very thought of these severe penalties is enough to make one shudder, as it's beyond comprehension how anyone could withstand such horror. The query arises, what exactly are these punishments, and what were the causes for their relentless use throughout the ages? Let's delve into the depths of history to uncover their gruesome secrets. Let's begin with the first punishment: lingering death. Lingering death, also called death by 1,000 cuts, was an advanced form of punishment that originated in China from the Han Dynasty to the conclusion of the Qing Dynasty. This method of executing criminals was carried out for extreme offenses such as betrayal, murder, and rebellion. The process was gruesome and slow, where the condemned criminal would be subjected to 1,000 slashes using sharp cutting instruments, leading to an eventual slow and painful death. The victim's corpse is sliced into small pieces, resulting in a slow and torturous death. Little portions of the flesh are cut from the criminal's body by the executioner with a sharp knife, and each cut causes excruciating suffering and pain. The punishment continues until the offender bleeds to death or passes away from shock. The penalty imposed upon them was so severe that it made survival nearly impossible for the convicts. Despite the impossible odds, some attempted to prolong their lives by capitulating to the executioner's demands, consuming copious amounts of water, and restricting their movements to conserve energy. Unfortunately, these strategies only worsened their suffering and rendered their eventual demise even more agonizing than it otherwise would have been. The lingering death punishment wasn't only a form of execution, but a means to instill fear and deter others from committing similar crimes. The practice of lingering death was also considered a form of public humiliation, as the dismembered body parts of the condemned criminal would be displayed in public places. This would remind the populace of the consequences of committing such crimes and the severity of the punishment that awaited them. In addition to the physical pain, lingering death also caused immense psychological torment to the victim, as they were forced to confront their impending doom and the agony that awaited them. Being cut 1,000 times also added to the humiliation of the criminal, as their body would be left disfigured and mutilated. Despite lingering death being abolished in China, the method has been widely publicized and has inspired similar brutal forms of punishment in other parts of the world. The lingering death is a haunting reminder of the extreme cruelty and inhumanity that humanity can inflict upon one another. Scaphism. Scaphism is a form of punishment often regarded as one of ancient Persia's most brutal and inhumane torture methods. This practice involved trapping the victim between 2 boats or excavated logs, leaving them to suffer unimaginable agony. The condemned person would have their limbs restrained to either side of the vessel and be force-fed a mixture of milk and honey until they could no longer ingest. The combination would then ferment in their stomach, causing them to vomit and defecate uncontrollably. The punishment of Scaphism wasn't only excruciating, but also prolonged, as the condemned person was left to suffer in the hot sun for days, attracting swarms of insects and parasites that would feast on their flesh. This punishment's physical and mental torture on its victims was almost beyond comprehension. However, some individuals would try to prolong their suffering by savoring the milk and honey mixture or clenching their bowels to fend off the mosquitoes. Despite the overwhelming difficulties and excruciating pain, a few individuals endured Scaphism. These individuals were often seen as brave, as they could withstand the unimaginable torment for days. However, most victims succumbed to dehydration, infection, and shock, resulting in a slow and painful death. Today, Scaphism is regarded as one of the most brutal and cruel forms of punishment in history, a testament to the depths of human cruelty and the suffering that we can inflict on each other. The Judas Cradle. The Judas Cradle was a particularly gruesome form of torture and punishment widely used during the medieval period. The pyramid-shaped stick used in this punishment was often made of wood or metal and was designed to be slowly lowered onto the victim's body, impaling them through the anus or genitals. The victim was often restrained in a chair or hanging device, and then fell onto the sharp tip of the pyramid. The Judas Cradle wasn't only a form of punishment, but was also used to extract confessions from individuals. The threat of being subjected to this horrific punishment was often enough to make people confess to crimes they didn't commit. In some cases, the Judas Cradle was used alongside other forms of torture. Despite its barbarity, the Judas Cradle was used for centuries and was seen as a legitimate form of punishment by those in authority. However, as societies evolved and became more civilized, such punishments were eventually abandoned. Today, the Judas Cradle is a reminder of the cruel ways in which people were once treated in the name of justice. Diogenes Pants. Diogenes Pants is a particularly gruesome penalty that's frequently overlooked. The Greek philosopher Diogenes, renowned for his quirky and often outrageous behavior, is supposed to have served as inspiration. The victim had to endure a punishment that included being made to wear a pair of hot metal pants. After that, the victim would be forced to sit in these pants while fried alive. Usually, people who had committed significant crimes like stealing or treason would receive this punishment. Diogenes Pants are among the most horrible types of punishment ever created because of the excruciating pain and gradual death they cause. In contrast to the other penalties stated earlier, there was no chance of surviving or withstanding this punishment. It would be difficult to endure this sentence because the sufferer would die fast from the high heat. The psychological effects of receiving such punishment are hard to fathom, knowing that they would die. The victim would have been made to endure unspeakable anguish and misery. Such a punishment serves as a powerful reminder of the harshness of ancient justice and the extent to which people were prepared to go to punish those who had disobeyed social rules. Using brutal methodologies to punish offenders has catalyzed the development of human and humane forms of penalties like rehabilitation and confinement. Consequently, introducing these alternative measures has correspondingly modified the general outlook toward punishment and justice. How Scaphism was practiced, there were instances where the individuals being subjected to torture would try to delay their inevitable death. In one such desperate attempt, they might have opted to consume the milk and honey mixture slowly, or refrain from expelling their waste to avoid luring insects toward them. Among such torturous practices are death by 1,000 cuts, Scaphism, the Judas Cradle, and the infamous Diogenes Pants. Thinking about these horrendous punishment methods can make us ponder how much progress we've made as a society in cherishing human life and guaranteeing human dignity. It's unimaginable to think that these inhumane punishments were created to instill fear and discourage people from breaking the law. However, it's essential to remember all these and acknowledge how far we've come in modern times to embody compassion and justice rather than revenge and barbarism. Even though these punitive measures have been abolished, they continue to serve as a stark reminder of the extent of barbarism and callousness that our species can exhibit.